I know why we never returned to the moon. With a combination of various tools, we managed to pry it open to reveal that the wall was in fact a door. The sound was now so close that I thought that if I looked back, I would have seen the source. But I didn't want to. We squeezed through the door and let it close behind us. Thump. Duck, that was close. Are you all right? Asked the commander. How are we going to return now? Asked Novak in response. We'll find a way, said the commander. How? We have no idea where we are, and there's... The commander cut him off. We'll find a way. We walked through another tunnel for some time, until we reached a room. It was circular in shape, maybe 15 or 20 meters in diameter. It was filled with concentric rows of black boxes or tables perhaps. In the center, there was a black three-sided pyramid. Again, 4 tunnels continued into the unknown at each side, like at the intersections. What was that place? We decided not to waste time and went into one of the tunnels. We probably walked for hours, but our oxygen was almost gone, and not long after we left the circular room, I started to feel it. My mind became cloudy and my legs felt like jelly. I remember that we eventually reached a room. It was circular in shape, with concentric rows of black tables and a 3-sided pyramid in the center. I didn't have any energy left to realize that we returned somehow to the same room we came from. I collapsed to the ground, breathing heavily, struggling for any oxygen left in my air. In the final desperate measure, I detached my helmet. I took a deep breath and cold air filled my lungs before I collapsed. I saw something while I was unconscious. I can't remember it clearly, like when you wake up and you remember your dream, but you forget it in a couple of minutes. I remember that I saw some kind of being. I can't remember what it looked like, but I knew that it was sleeping. Then it woke up. Tarkov, a voice said at the edge of my consciousness. Wake up. I woke up to see Novak. Wake up, Tarkov. He repeated and shook me. I saw that he had also removed his helmet. Somehow, there was air and we could breathe it. But after all that's happened, it was one of the less surprising facts. What happened? I asked. Thank God you're all right. I don't know, but something is not right with Polyakov, he answered. I stood up and saw him standing in front of the pyramid. Commander Polyakov, I shouted. He didn't respond. We started walking towards him with Novak. I passed out when we got back here. When I woke up, he was already standing there. He wouldn't respond and he didn't move an inch. Then I found you and woke you up, explained Novak. Polyakov moved his arm and touched the pyramid. I don't know why I didn't notice it before, but anyway, his helmet was still on. There's no way he had any oxygen left. Suddenly, the surface of the pyramid went black. I mean, it was black even before, but now it was so black that I couldn't even see the surface anymore, only the outline. It was like if somebody had simply torn away a part of space itself. Some sort of black hand appeared in front of the pyramid. I can't comprehend where it came from, but it seemed to extend out from the pyramid itself. It grabbed Polyakov's arm and in a blink of an eye, it pulled him into the darkness. We turned and ran into the tunnel to our right. A few dozen of meters into the tunnel, I stumbled and fell face down onto the ground, breaking my lamp in the process. The last light in the tunnel disappeared with Novak as he sprinted away, and then I was plunged into darkness. I then heard heavy footsteps behind me. I wanted to stand up and run, but I couldn't. I couldn't take it anymore. I just lay there and awaited my end as the footsteps got closer. Thump, 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 thump. The thing got right next to me, and I felt a hand touch my leg. It touched my suit several other times and advanced towards my head. Then, to my horror, it touched my face. It was cold. I imagined the same hand that had just pulled Polyakov into the pyramid. I imagined it dragging me backward and pulling me inside the pyramid to do terrible things to me. This was it. This was my end. But that didn't happen. Who is this? A shaky voice asked. I was startled and I didn't know what to do. It was Lenko's voice. It's Tarkov, I said after a while. Thank God I found you. I thought I would die here, alone, he said. I stood up and we walked through the tunnel together in pitch darkness. We roamed the tunnels for hours. Maybe days? Weeks? At first, it wasn't so bad, because I wasn't alone. We filled the time by speaking about various things. We talked about our families, about our jobs, and about how we became astronauts. At one point, I asked him what happened after he was pulled away from us. He didn't answer and went silent ever since. It wasn't long until the silence forced me to start questioning each step I took. How did Lenko survive? What happened to Polyakov? But there was one thought that was much stronger than the others. Was it Lenko next to me? Was it him, or that monster with the black hand? I wouldn't know because I couldn't see. Why didn't he have a light? How did he find me? My gratefulness of not being alone shifted to terror. Each second, my desperation to see any light was stronger. I couldn't bear it anymore. I suddenly tripped and fell. Are you all right, Tarkov? Asked Lenko. I tripped on something, I explained. I turned and with my hands proceeded to feel the object that caused my fall. It was highly irregular, but sometimes symmetric. In some places, it was soft and flexible, while in others it was cold and smooth. I then realized what it was. A spacesuit. I eventually found the lamp and after some struggle, I detached it from the suit. At first, to my surprise, I was afraid to turn it on. I was afraid to see what was in the darkness all around us. I was afraid to see who was in the spacesuit. But I did it anyway. The brightness blinded my eyes, and after they adapted to the light I saw Novak's face in the suit and Lenko standing over us. Our eyes met and for a brief moment, I felt that his eyes were somehow unnatural. Something wasn't right about them. I was just on the verge of realizing what it was, when the body beside me twitched and took a long, deep breath. Novak, are you okay? How did you get here? I asked. He was very disoriented. I don't remember. Is that, he said and looked at Lenko. He then looked at me and we both stood up. I thought you guys were dead, he said. So did we, I answered. I was delighted to finally see a human face. But it wasn't over. We still had to find a way out. I ran as far away as I could until I realized that you weren't following me. I wanted to head back for you, but I thought that you were gone as well. I can't remember what happened next. My head hurts just from trying to think about it. Explained Novak. After managing to get a closer look at him, I realized that he was looking terrible, sick perhaps. His eyes were red and he was completely pale. Something was wrong with him as well. After a few hours, we decided to stop and take a break. I finally drifted into sleep. This time I didn't have any dreams. Just pitch darkness. It was that more terrifying, because it reminded me of the time I spent in the dark. I was woken up by something. It was Novak. He gestured to me to stay silent. I saw Lenko sleeping a few meters away. Tarkov, listen, he whispered. We need to go now. We need to get away from him. What are you talking about? Are you crazy? I whispered back. Tarkov, do you remember the banging back at the station? He asked. When I looked out of the window, I saw something, but at that point, I thought that my mind was playing tricks on me, so I stayed silent, he explained. In the far distance, I saw a figure, standing with its back turned to us. It was walking away, but it stopped when I focused my eyes on it. It turned and looked at me. It was him. It was Lenko, finished Novak his revelation. I took a minute to process all this. I then nodded and silently stood up. We proceeded to carefully walk away. Something was wrong with this place. Something I can't explain. People disappeared, people appeared. If what Novak was saying was true, was the person behind us Lenko? If not, what was it? Was Novak telling the truth? Was it Novak or something else? I couldn't trust anyone. I didn't even trust myself. It all felt so unreal, but so real at the same time. I had so many questions I didn't want answers to. I felt like I would break at this point. I felt as if the walls of the tunnel were collapsing on me, getting tighter and tighter each second. I wanted so desperately to get out. I wanted to go home. But I was so far away from home. Then I heard a voice behind me. Are you my friend, Tarkov? Asked Lenko. I turned to see him standing right behind Novak, who was just behind me. I didn't know what to do. Of course I'm your friend, I responded. Good, he said. I looked in his eyes and realized what was wrong with them. They were pitch black. What are you? I shouted. We are everything, he said in an unsettling, unnatural voice. He then impossibly opened his mouth and clamped around Novak's neck, engulfing his head in its throat. Novak screamed in agony, but his screams were muffled by the thing's flesh. I turned to run while I heard ear-piercing roars and screeches behind me. I was too afraid to look back, but I felt that it was getting closer. Thump, thump, thump. I ran through the tunnel for a while, until I reached an intersection. In the center, there was a spiral ramp. My heart dropped. This could be where we came from. It had to be. Thump, 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 thump. I ascended the ramp, but the higher I got, the harder it was for me to breathe. I put my helmet back on and reached a big room. In the ceiling, there was a small ray of sunlight coming from a hole. Thump, thump, thump. I climbed out. I was finally out, but I didn't have time to celebrate. I was out of oxygen. What was left was only the air that became trapped in my suit as I reattached my helmet. My reserves were completely out. I went to walk to the base, when I froze. I dropped to my knees. The base was gone. Like if it was never there. Both of our landers were there, but the base itself was gone. I crawled into one of the landers. I almost suffocated on the way, but I made it. To whoever receives this, I'm presumably the last survivor of the Kamchatka expedition. I'm sending out this transmission in case I don't make it. I think that whatever is down there was asleep for a long time, but we woke it up. The engine is warming up now, but I'm afraid I'm out of time. I can see him outside. He's getting closer. God help me. End of record. To think about it, I can't sleep knowing that our own moon is something unnatural, something hiding so many terrifying truths. Whenever you take a look outside at the night sky, remember that sometimes the most mysterious and terrifying things are hidden in plain sight.